Hey guys! So, in this video I'm going to try to talk to you a little bit about why nobody is contacting you for programming jobs or why you're getting no from the jobs that you apply for. So let's get into it. Now, this is of course it's a very broad topic. There's so many different possibilities and it's also very sensitive for a lot of people, so I will do my best to try to tread with as much care as I can humanly muster up. And if I do that, I hope that you in turn can try to do a little bit of self-reflection and maybe think about things a little bit objectively, because some people in my experience are like they get a little bit defensive. And you know, everybody gets defensive. I get defensive as well. But I always try to remember that, or rather, I always try to have the outlook and really think about what somebody else is saying. Like, I'm always asking the question, is this person trying to hurt me or are they trying to help me? That usually works out for me, at least. So, now, all I can do here, because I have absolutely no idea who you are. I know what the statistics are telling me, that who you are. If the statistics are correct, you are a man from America between 25 and 35 years of age. That's what my stats are telling me. But this goes out to absolutely everybody out there. Anywho, odds are that if you are a software developer and nobody is contacting you for programming jobs, that you are experiencing one of a few possibilities. Now, I'll share with you the conversations I've had with people who have these sort of issues and the reason why they have that issue and what they have done or what happened kind of in order for them to solve this issue for them when it comes to just being contacted. Because if you are a software developer, even if you are a fairly junior software developer, you should, on average, have a few recruiters contact you every 6 months at the very minimum. You should at least see a direct message of some sort or get contacted for some reason. Now, the most common reason why people are not being contacted, as far as I can see, first and foremost, is that they don't have LinkedIn, for example. Now, LinkedIn doesn't really matter if you like it or not. It is the biggest platform in the world for recruiters to find people. So if you don't have a LinkedIn account, just set something up. Trust me, it's one of the best career investments that you can make. There are other platforms out there, but LinkedIn is by far the most popular one. So that's number one. And this is, I mean, I have worked with colleagues who are like professional software developers and they don't really get contacted all that much because they didn't have LinkedIn. Now, when it comes to networking and so forth, that's also fairly important. You don't have to put so much energy into that. But the second reason I see as to why people are not being contacted as much is because they are like they don't have much in terms of a network. But even with a small network, you should see some traffic. So that brings us to the next sore point. Do you have the relevant education? If you don't have the relevant education, you might find yourself being very tricky to hire. Maybe you are a freelancer, maybe you're self-taught, you don't have anything on your CV, or your CV isn't making people contact you. That could also be an option. I've seen people who have this issue as well. So education is also something, like having relevant education. I can tell you from experience that if you have a bachelor's degree in computer science or something relevant like that, with just one or two languages, programming languages, you should see traffic. Definitely. If you have a bachelor's degree, because usually that's what people, like the people who are hiring programmers are looking for. So definitely you should see some traffic there. If you don't, if you're still not seeing any traffic when you have that, you might be in the situation where which happened to my friend. It's an old childhood friend of mine. We're both programmers. So we were talking. I actually met him for the first time in many years, just a few months back, where we were talking, and we just kind of shared our experiences as to how we became programmers. And what's interesting is that I have literally been bombarded by recruitment attempts from all kinds of sources all over the world for most of my career. And I started out with Java. My education background was in Java, and the highest ranked language that I have on my profile is Java. He started with Clojure because he's really into Clojure. And he told me that he had struggled, at least here in Gothenburg. This is, of course, maybe regional, so it might differ in your part of the world. But for him, it was very tricky to find his first job. And the first job he found was actually at a very small startup here in Gothenburg. So the language that you know that you're the best at, like your strongest language, also factors in when it comes to finding a job. So you can kind of make a decision here and either go with something that is very popular, like Java, for example, or C#, and that's going to give you a lot. Like, I mean, honestly, I find it very hard. Like, something is really weird if you have a bachelor's degree in computer science and your strongest programming language is Java or C#. Then you should definitely be contacted. But as I said, you can also go with these more obscure, less adopted languages. And that's also something that's going to affect you. And there you kind of have to make a decision. Are you that enthusiastic? If you're really enthusiastic about the language, then you're going to have to work a little bit. And then it's not so weird that you're not seeing as much traffic to your profile as you might want to have. And as I said, that's kind of popularity decision. Do you want to get contacted for job opportunities, or do you want to work in the language of your choice? If you're lucky, you fall in love with, say, Java or Node or something like that, and then you're fine for the most part. It's going to be tricky for you if you fall in love with maybe Haskell. That can be tricky, but it's not impossible. All right, so you're getting contacted, you're getting to a job position. Now I'm going to tell you the reasons I've heard as to why somebody didn't get hired at varying levels of companies. Right now I'm at a mid-sized startup. I used to work at a very, very large corporation, and I've also worked at a very, very small startup where it was just me and two other people. So the most common reason why a junior does not get hired is because they do not have enough experience. Basically, the most common reason is that they are too junior. Maybe they're in the middle of their education, they're not finished with school, something like that. And this is a harsh truth, and this is the scariest part about being a junior. Getting the first job as a junior programmer is the scariest thing, because it's very, very tricky for you. Usually, like, that's where you have to work a little bit to get an internship or like something like that. But don't worry, don't let it scare you, because once you have that first job and you spend at least a year at your first job, everything else becomes like exponentially much easier. Because, guys, you have to remember, software development it's like, I mean, you're applying for a job that requires you to be able to produce things. I mean, your salary isn't free. Like, whatever you're getting paid, most likely your boss is paying more to the government, like taxes and all that stuff. So it represents a risk for the company to hire you. So usually they want to go with a candidate that they feel like it's all about a return on investment here, because you are a resource. And that means that everybody's a resource in the work industry. They have to feel that you're comfortable in that if they pay this amount of money that it's going to cost to get you into the company, and they train you and do all that stuff, that they're going to get a return on that money somehow. That's what the issue is. Usually you get a no because you pose too much of a risk. And the way that you mitigate that the easiest is to get relevant things on your CV to prove that you're enthusiastic, that you have skill and passion and all that good stuff. And I have many videos about how to do that as well, how to communicate it effectively anyway. So that's the most common reason for a junior not to get hired, apart from them not having any relevancy, like when it comes with languages. As I said, I mean, if you're applying for a job if you're a junior developer and all you ever studied was C, and you apply for a job doing, say, something different, like say Scala, for example, and you have no work experience, that's high risk. That's high risk for the company, and they're most likely going to see if they can find somebody with a little bit more relevancy or somebody who poses less risk. For a senior or somebody who's applying for a tech lead position, the most common reason I see the people being turned down is because they got out of touch with IT, that they don't have any relevancy anymore. They spent too long in a management position and they don't have any technical relevancy, or like they're, how do I put it? They are not hungry anymore. They lack a good, like they don't fit, they're not going to fit into the environment, or they're not going to be a good fit for the company usually. That's the main issue. They usually have the work experience and they know how IT works, but they lack the hunger or the relevancy or things of that nature. And that's why I argue that it's, once you know programming and you get into the industry, like you're not done, guys. In this industry, I mean, it's not like you have to relearn everything you know every day, but it's more about you have to at least pay attention to what's going on, because if you don't and you get too complacent, maybe after a few years you find that, oh, you're not receiving any more calls, or you're finding that a lot of people around you don't really think the way that you think, because what's happened without you noticing is that you got irrelevant. This has happened. I have found the only person I've ever met who was it was the saddest thing I've ever seen. Before I became a programmer, I met a programmer who managed to be unemployed long enough that the government had to step in and help him financially to like just keep him, you know, in a socialist system, even if you have no job, you have like food stamps and stuff of that nature. This was a C# developer, believe it or not, and I talked to him, and I've never met a person, like I never met a programmer who was so unenthusiastic about his work. He literally only knew the bare bone basic, and he used to work for a fairly high profile company here in Gothenburg, so he has a CV that is, I mean, I'm pretty sure that he's getting contacted for positions, but he's getting turned down by everybody because he had no fire. He didn't care at all about IT. He literally stated to me that he never ever uses his computer outside of the office, and that's okay. But how do I put it? He very clearly communicated that he has no drive, no passion, or anything like that, and that's something that companies want. It is unfair, I'm sorry to say, but in this industry, people want you to care about what you do. That's the main reason that seniors get turned down for a position. So, to summarize, guys, the things I've talked about are just the reasons I've seen as to why people are getting turned down or not getting contacted for a position. And the red thread that I want you to take away from all of this is that you need to care about what you do, and you need to know the correct things in order to get a job in software development. Have a great day.